A man boards a plane. He has spent years navigating war zones, explosions on broken roads, and a football federation held together by sheer determination. He has refereed in some of the most difficult conditions imaginable. He has earned the highest honor a referee can receive from the African continent, and he has been personally selected by FIFA to stand in the middle of the greatest football tournament on earth. He lands in Miami. He is questioned for 11 hours, and then he is sent home. That man's name is Omar Artan. He was meant to become the first Somali referee in the history of the FIFA World Cup. He never got to blow a single whistle. And what is unfolding around that story right now, as the opening match approaches, is something no one in football's long and turbulent history has ever quite seen before. This is not a minor logistical hiccup. This is not the usual friction that surrounds a major tournament. What is happening ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup is something far more complex, far more human, and far more consequential than the football world was prepared for. And by the time this video is finished, you will understand why even FIFA itself may not have the answers to what comes next. Stay with us, because the story is only just beginning. For 94 years, the FIFA World Cup has carried a promise, a simple, powerful, almost sacred promise that for one summer every 4 years, the world comes together. Regardless of language, regardless of borders, regardless of history, the football pitch becomes neutral ground, and for 90 minutes at a time, the only thing that matters is the beautiful game. It is a promise that has survived 2 world wars, Cold War tensions, political boycotts, and corruption scandals that shook football to its foundations. The World Cup has endured because, at its heart, it belongs to everyone. But right now, in the days leading up to what was supposed to be the most expansive World Cup in history, 48 nations, 16 cities, 3 countries, that promise is being tested in ways nobody quite anticipated. And what makes this moment so extraordinary is that many of the problems are not coming from inside the game. They are coming from outside it, from the world itself colliding with football in real time. And the sport and its governing body is scrambling to respond. Let us go back to the beginning, because to understand what is happening today, you need to understand what this tournament was designed to be. When FIFA awarded the 2026 World Cup to the joint bid of the United States, Canada, and Mexico, the promise was grand and deliberate. FIFA President Gianni Infantino called it without hesitation the greatest event humanity has ever seen. He spoke of inclusion, of unity, of a tournament so large and so ambitious that it would rewrite the record books and welcome the world like never before. 48 teams, 104 matches, nearly 6 million visitors expected across North America, an economic impact projected in the billions. The language was bold, the ambition was real, and for millions of football fans across the globe, the excitement was genuine. But then something started to happen, quietly at first, then louder, then impossible to ignore. Fans who had purchased tickets, fans who had saved for years for this moment, began receiving news that their visas to enter the United States had been denied. Supporters from Morocco, from Iran, from several African nations found themselves facing a wall they had not expected. Some were asked to post bond requirements of up to $15,000 just to secure the right to travel. The dream of watching their nations compete on the world's greatest stage was slipping away, not because of anything they had done, but because of the document in their passport. And that was only the first layer. Think for a moment about what the World Cup means to a football fan from a country that has never won it, a country where football is not merely entertainment, it is identity. It is the thread that runs through communities, through generations, through celebrations and heartbreak alike. This tournament, for the first time ever, includes 10 African nations. 10! That's a historic milestone, a recognition of the continent's extraordinary football talent and its passionate, devoted supporter culture. For fans across Africa, this was supposed to be their moment more than ever before. Instead, many of those supporters chose not to come, not because they didn't want to, but because the journey felt too uncertain, too risky. Fans were saying, "There's something about this atmosphere. I don't want to get to an airport and then have to explain myself for 3 hours." The fear of that experience alone was enough to keep people away. And what does it mean for a World Cup, a tournament built on the idea of the world coming together, when the world itself can't get through the door? That question has no easy answer, but the consequences are already being felt. And now, as we get closer to the heart of this story, we reach the moment that stopped the football world in its tracks.
If this story matters to you the way it matters to us, hit that subscribe button now, because we will be covering this tournament every step of the way, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Omar Artan did not come from an easy place. Growing up in Somalia, a country that has known decades of conflict and instability, he pursued football with the kind of dedication that speaks to something deep in the human spirit. He played the game. Then, after an injury ended his playing career, he became a referee. He trained, he studied, he worked his way through the Somali Domestic League, navigating roads where explosions were not a metaphor, but a daily reality. He kept going. He was named African Referee of the Year by the Confederation of African Football in 2025, and then he received the call that every referee on the planet dreams of. He was selected by FIFA, personally, officially, to officiate at the 2026 World Cup. Before he left home, he said something that now feels almost unbearably poignant. Every referee's ambition is to go to the World Cup. When you are selected, you feel that all your hard work was worth it. It was a moment where everything came into focus. Years of effort finally made sense. He landed at Miami International Airport on a Saturday. He was taken aside for additional inspection. 11 hours later, 11 hours, he was told he would not be admitted into the United States. He was sent home. FIFA confirmed it in a formal statement. Omar Abdulkadir Artan would not be able to train or officiate at the FIFA World Cup 2026. The dream was over. Back in Mogadishu, something remarkable happened. A crowd gathered at the airport. Supporters draped in Somali flags, journalists, police, all waiting for the man who had been denied his moment at football's greatest stage. He stepped off the plane to a hero's welcome, because in the eyes of his country, he had done nothing wrong. He had earned his place. He had simply been turned away. And Omar Artan was not alone, not even close. 15 Iranian officials were denied entry into the United States. The Iraqi team's official photographer was detained for more than 10 hours and then denied entry altogether. Iraqi striker Ayman Hussein, a player who had fought his way to the biggest tournament of his career, was questioned for 7 hours after arriving at Chicago's O'Hare Airport before finally being allowed in. Think about that. 7 hours in an airport before what should have been the greatest week of his professional life. These are not statistics. These are human beings. These are people for whom the World Cup represents something enormous, and the friction they encountered at the border cast a shadow over the tournament before a single ball had been kicked. FIFA found itself in a position it had never quite occupied before, caught between its promises to the world and the reality on the ground in its host nation. The governing body had been given assurances years in advance that eligible athletes, officials, and fans from all countries would be able to attend. What was actually unfolding was something very different, and FIFA's response, careful, measured, diplomatic, did little to ease the anger being expressed across the football world. Critics were blunt. The 2026 World Cup was being described as a massive paradox. More teams participating than ever before in history, and yet something that looked more like a World Cup of exclusion than inclusion. That phrase landed hard, and it is still echoing. But here is where the story takes yet another turn, because while the human drama of barred fans and detained officials was unfolding at the borders, a completely separate crisis was quietly intensifying inside the stadiums themselves. Heat, not the excitement kind, the dangerous kind.
Scientists had been warning about this for over a year. Researchers from Queen's University Belfast raised the alarm that several World Cup host cities, Dallas, Houston, Miami, and Monterrey among them, could experience heat stress levels in June and July that exceed those recorded during the Qatar 2022 World Cup. You may recall that FIFA moved Qatar's entire tournament from its traditional summer slot to November and December, precisely because of the heat. That was considered unprecedented at the time. The 2026 World Cup is being played in June and July across open-air stadiums in some of the hottest cities in North America. 14 of the 16 stadium locations are experiencing more dangerously hot days than when the first North American World Cup was held in 1994. During the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, played across many of the same venues, players and managers spoke openly about the stifling conditions. A Uruguay player left a match in Miami at halftime, suffering from dizziness and dehydration. A professional footballer collapsed from heat exhaustion in Houston years earlier and posted publicly, "Those conditions are not safe to play at your maximum." Dozens of players signed an open letter in May 2026 urging FIFA to take stronger action. FIFA responded with mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks in each half. Critics said it was not enough. And here is the part that often goes unmentioned. Even the stadiums with air conditioning cannot fully protect the 5 million fans waiting in queues and celebrating outside in the summer heat. Many of those supporters are older. Many are traveling from cooler climates with no time to acclimatize. The risk extends far beyond the pitch. The unthinkable question is now being quietly asked. What happens if a match has to be delayed or postponed due to extreme heat? It would be a first in World Cup history, and the possibility cannot be dismissed. Step back for a moment. Look at the full picture. The most ambitious World Cup in football history is opening against a backdrop of fans unable to attend, officials denied entry, players detained at borders, and scientists warning of dangerous heat. A governing body trying to navigate pressures it was never built to manage. It raises a question that goes far beyond tactics or tournament brackets. It raises a question about what the World Cup actually is, what it is supposed to be, who it is truly for, and whether the promise that has sustained it for nearly a century, the promise that football unites the world, can survive this particular moment intact. The players are still here. The teams are ready. The football itself will be extraordinary. 48 nations representing cultures and dreams that span every corner of the planet. Goals will be scored, tears will be shed, history will be made on the pitch. But around that pitch, something unprecedented is unfolding simultaneously. Omar Artan is back in Mogadishu. He says he will not give up. He says he will keep fighting to reach a World Cup. His country, which is not even competing in this tournament, gave him a welcome that brought crowds to tears. Football gave him that, even in the middle of everything that went wrong. 104 matches lie ahead, 48 nations, 3 host countries, and a world full of fans, some in the stadiums, many more in living rooms and family homes across every continent, watching what unfolds with something between hope, anxiety, and the kind of deep, fierce love for the game that no amount of controversy can ever quite extinguish. The 2026 World Cup may well become one of football's most complicated and most debated chapters, a tournament that asks more questions than it answers, a moment that forces football to confront who it belongs to and what it truly stands for. One thing is certain:
The world is watching, and the biggest surprises may still be yet to come.